First up, Judgment Day for the FBI and DOJ after an 18-month investigation. Inspector General Michael Horowitz tomorrow expected to deliver his bombshell report on how the feds handled and mishandled the Clinton email probe. We do not yet know exactly what's in the Horowitz report. President Trump and Congress will get a sneak peek tomorrow before it is released to us heathens. And as you know, it pertains to Hillary Clinton's private server investigation and whether certain players decided not to prosecute her in an attempt to help Clinton beat Donald Trump in the 2016 presidential election. According to ABC News, a draft report says former FBI Director James Comey defied authority and was insubordinate regarding the investigation. ABC News went on to say the report also faults former Attorney General Loretta Lynch as well as former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. The IG report is not legally binding. It will only offer recommendations on what should be done. So will heads roll? Let me ask Republican Congressman Bob Goodlatte of Virginia. He is also, as you know, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. Welcome to the show, Congressman.
Good evening, Kennedy. It's good to be with you and your viewers.
Oh, thank you very much. A lot of questions people have, particularly about Rod Rosenstein, and, you know, it has been brewing as to whether or not he threatened to subpoena some of your peers' emails and text messages.
Yes, I was not in the meeting that is the subject of that controversy. But I will say that it is very important for any official in the Department of Justice to treat the Congress with respect and understand that we have a right to see these documents related to investigations that we're conducting. And it is not appropriate to counter with threats to the Congress.
Absolutely not, especially when you have the type of power where you could make people's lives miserable with that sort of capability. Rod Rosenstein is obviously a very interesting and critical figure in this entire thing because he has essentially been acting as Attorney General because Jeff Sessions' recusal seems to extend far beyond any Russia probe. Rod Rosenstein is also the person who helped get James Comey fired, and he's also the one who's going to brief the president on this report. Tell me your thoughts about Rod Rosenstein and how he's incorporated in all of these.
Well, he's a central figure in this, no doubt, and he could fulfill his responsibilities by making sure that the Congress and through the Congress, the American people get all the facts about how these two presidential campaigns were handled in such disparate fashion between the FBI bending over backwards to not prosecute Hillary Clinton. Think about this now. We're 2 years past that investigation, 2 years past when James Comey said she did all these things wrong, but we're not going to indict her, and still no one has been held accountable for the leaking of hundreds, at least hundreds, of classified emails, and no one is above the law. On the other hand, with regard to the so-called Trump-Russia collusion, some of the same characters transferred over from the Clinton investigation to the Trump investigation and clearly have an extraordinary bias against the current administration and the Trump campaign. That cannot happen again in the 2020 presidential election. The FBI has to be
No, it can't. You're absolutely right. There has to be, you know, you say that no one is above the law, but it sure feels like justice is metered out very differently depending on what party you're in, how much money you have, and what is at stake for people who are career deep staters like Rod Rosenstein and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. There's a lot that we don't know about the back and forth and, you know, the lack of objectivity for Strzok and Page. What are you hoping to find about them specifically in this report?
Well, this report's very important. We understand it's about 500 pages long. We know it's very thorough. We know the Inspector General, Mr. Horowitz, has done good work in other areas. He has communicated with the Congress as this report has progressed, and we think it's going to fill in a lot of the missing pieces of the puzzle regarding what was going on in 2016. Not all of them, because it's not focused on everything, but certainly with regard to how the FBI and the Department of Justice handled the matters regarding Hillary Clinton. And these Page-Strzok texts are going to be a big part of it because we know the Inspector General had them. In fact, he was, you'll recall, the individual who found the missing Strzok Page text, and he recovered them using technology and then also shared them with the Congress. So we're looking for a lot of useful information here that will help to answer questions and to move the process forward in terms of holding
not
people
only
accountable.
does, you know, and there are different sides of this. Obviously, those of us who cover politics every day, we're delighted at the palace intrigue because it gives us something to talk about. That doesn't necessarily help fix some of the massive institutional problems that we have, and that clearly is the most important thing. This thing is such a god-awful mess. When you have the Deputy Attorney General hiding behind a shield of opacity, as Rod Rosenstein is doing in not being more forthcoming with some of these documents, and Jeff Sessions going completely AWOL in most areas of his professional responsibility. Who do you blame more, Rosenstein or Sessions?
Oh, first of all, I think this is an institutional problem with the department. It's often the general counsel of the FBI and of the Department of Justice that are the people that are hardest to pry these documents out of. I know from having worked on that for years now, but particularly in this investigation. And let me just say, the new FBI director, Christopher Wray, has been cleaning house there. There have been a number of personnel changes. We're making progress. We have a protocol set up now where we have a room at the Department of Justice where we are able to examine thousands of documents that are being made available to us. When we see them unredacted, we can then look at them and identify the ones we want to have produced. If they have classified information or involve other investigations, they can redact portions of them, but we know what's been redacted. So that part of it is improving, but there's still much more to be produced, and
Absolutely.
We're continuing to pressure
much
them.
more transparency to be had. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.